President, please be seated. The court is now back in session. And good afternoon again, Mr. Witness. Are you ready? Witness, yes, Mr. President, I am ready. President, thank you. And again, I'd like to hand the floor to the International Deputy Co-Prosecutor to continue putting further questions to the witness. You may proceed.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We were talking about the fact that there were lots of mosquitoes, and we're also talking about sanitation in the O Kam Seng detention prison. Did the prisoners often fall sick? And do you know what types of diseases they were sick of?
Prisoners usually face the following diseases, that is malaria or dysentery, and that's due to the uncleaned or unboiled water.
Est-ce que les prisonniers,
as a general rule, was any appropriate health care provided to the prisoners by competent health care workers?
When a prisoner got sick, there was a medic on the compound who provided the treatment. As for the medicine, usually it was homemade. It was in the form of a rapid drop pellets, and the ingredients were herbal, and it was mixed with powder. And we also had some form of modern medicine.
est-ce que cela suffisait à éviter que...
Was that enough to prevent deaths amongst the prisoners caused by those diseases, as well as malnutrition?
As for the condition where the medicine was not effective, the limited foods that led to malnutrition, some prisoners died as a result of that.
Était-ce encore plus le cas pour...
Was that particularly more of a case in the case of prisoners who were shackled all night, or those who were imprisoned under severe conditions? Were those prisoners subjected to a situation that made their health care worse than that of others?
As for prisoners who were chained, since they were considered serious offense prisoners, they did not face any serious illnesses. some of them actually had a flu or cold, and then the medic would provide them with the medicine.
Donc vous nous dites là que finalement...
You have just told us that they received better treatment than the others, if I understood you correctly, or the fact that they didn't have to move all day predispose them to certain diseases such as swollen feet and other pains in their joints, etc.
Mr. Witness, please hold on, and counsel for Kieu Sampon, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. President. I thought I heard the co-prosecutor say that he was going to rephrase his questions, and I believe he understands that I will always object whenever he puts words in the witness's mouth. I rephrased my questions in another manner by saying that people who are subjected to not being able to move all day had illnesses such as pains in their joints and swollen feet.
No.
As for prisoners who were chained, I did not witness any of them through head wounds as a result of being chained.
Je voudrais simplement couvrir une question.
I would like to put to you just one question regarding the number of prisoners who were detained at Okanseng Center at the time when you worked there. Do you know approximately the total number of different prisoners who were brought to the Okanseng Security Center during the period you spent there, that is from April 1975 up to the end of the regime?
I cannot tell you what the situation was in 1975, since I was sent there only in 1977, and it was not long, that is for the period of 77 and 78, that I remained there. As for the number of prisoners there at any one point, there were less than 200 of them. But I cannot give you any real number. In hindsight, based on my recollection of the number of those whom I saw every day, there were not many of them. As I said, I could say they were somewhere near the number of 200.
D'accord.
Very well. Regarding the number of deaths at Aukanseng, are you able to give us an estimate of the number of persons who died there by comparing the number of those who went there and those who are still alive at the end? That is assuming there were no transfers. Can you give us an estimate of the persons who died at the Okanseng Center?
Witness, please hold on, and Counsel Copper, you have the floor.
I'm not sure if I understand this question. Assuming no transfers, why not assuming any transfers? If I understand other testimony, people were transferred. So asking the witness to give evidence as to the number of people detained and then who didn't live at the end of that period, but without transferring, and it's a very complicated question, I think, for the witness, and also I do not see any basis for saying that there weren't any transfers. Je pense que l'avocat.
I believe the counsel for the defense didn't hear what the witness said, because he said there were no transfers to other security centers at the time when Tavan was the head of that center. But I will rephrase my question. Witness, can you tell us approximately how many people died at the Okanseng Security Center between April 1977 and the end of 1978? That is the period when you were there.
I cannot recall the total number of prisoners who died at Okanseng Security Center from illnesses. And from my recollection, there were not many of them who died from illnesses, namely malaria, or from the malnutrition or dysentery. I could say the number is somewhere near 10. Although, as I said, this number is not that precise.
Je voudrais lire un.
I would like to read out to you your record of interview E3/406, in which you were very specific, and it is answer number 6. And I quote, free translation: there were nevertheless lots of prisoners who died at the center. They died of disease and hunger. Chained prisoners didn't eat to their fill. They were very skinny, and they died as a result of their diseases. As for prisoners who worked normally, they ate sufficient grains of rice, particularly those who were under my orders. The prisoners we eliminated by following the orders of the hierarchy, apart from the Vietnamese and the Jerai, were numbered 10. They were among the soldiers. Consequently, all in all, the prisoners who died at the center were to the tune of a few hundreds. They were not more than 1,000 in number. End of quote. Free translation. Does that refresh your memory as regards the number of prisoners who died at the center, which you said were in several hundreds in your interview, your record of interview?
When I was first interviewed, I was asked whether prisoners died as a result of illnesses or that they were killed, and whether there were thousands of them who died at the Okanseng Security Center. And my response was that I would not acknowledge that the number was in the several thousands. And I added that from my recollection, and of course this matter happened many years ago, was that I cannot give them any precise number.
Et quelle était parmi ces centaines?
And among the hundreds of prisoners who died, what was the approximate proportion of that number of prisoners who died of disease or of malnutrition, and the proportion of prisoners who died because they were eliminated? To use the terms you use in the record of your interview that I've just read out to you.
I object.
Mr. Witness, please hold on, and Counsel Corporate, you have the floor.
I object to the formulation of this question, Mr. President. The witness just testified that in his recollection there were about 10 people who might have died from illnesses such as malnutrition or malaria. Then the prosecution read him this excerpt, but I didn't hear him acknowledge that hundreds of people died from illnesses. So having that excerpt then read back to him and sort of implying that he had confirmed that is, I think, misleading. So the evidence in this courtroom is still that he believes, in his recollection, only 10 people died of illnesses.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. President, may I respond? I read out the extract, and the witness confirms that he had said that about some hundreds of prisoners died at Okansem, but he didn't say that they all died of illnesses. But he also talked of elimination, and I asked him whether it was possible for him to give a rough estimate of the proportion of persons died as a result of ill health and the proportion of those who died because they were eliminated. I believe this is a legitimate question which would enable me to move on in my examination of the witness.
President, the objection by the defense counsel for Nunchir is overruled. There is a proper basis for the question. And Mr. Witness, if you recall the last question put to you by the Deputy Co-Prosecutor, you may respond. Witness, I cannot give any precise number or answer to the percentage of prisoners who died. In reference to my written record of interview, that is, there were hundreds of them who died. That included those who were smashed, as well as those who died in the detention center from illnesses. As to the estimation of the percentage, I could say that there were less a number of prisoners who died from illnesses than those who were smashed.
Merci, Monsieur le témoin.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. I would like to put a question to you regarding interrogations. Did you have access to written confessions from Phnom Penh, that is, confessions made by prisoners who had been interrogated in Phnom Penh, on the basis of which you were able to interrogate the prisoners who arrived at Okanseng? In other words, did you have in hand confessions of prisoners from Phnom Penh?
I never had any confession in hand, that is, those confessions from Phnom Penh. When a prisoner was interrogated, only No had in his hand a confession or document from Phnom Penh, and Ro himself was the one who interrogated the prisoner. I was sitting nearby to take note and record the question and the answer, but I did not have access to that kind of document.
Nous avons parlé tout à l'heure.
A while ago, you referred to a person who came from Phnom Penh. You gave his name. The name was No. Did he come with a number of confessions with him, that is, confessions from Phnom Penh? And do you know where those confessions were from? In other words, from what entity or from what security center?
I did not ask him from which security center those confessions were. I myself had to be careful in what I said or what I asked. If I were to know more about the affairs of other people, it means that I put my security at risk. However, from my observation, he interrogated the prisoners based on the documents he had with him.
Est-ce que Tassai
Did Tasai or Tasarun have access to confessions of prisoners from Phnom Penh?
I never saw Sai consult with No or with me in relation to confessions from Phnom Penh.
concernant Saosaron?
Regarding Sasarun, let me read out to you what he said on this book. E3/5512, answer number 13. And this is what he stated. Free translation. As for myself, I received a record of interview given to me by TA-05, which was supposed to be used for interrogating prisoners at Okangseng. End of quote. Free translation. And elsewhere in the record of interview, you say that TA-05 was Ta-Sarun. Can you tell me whether that refreshes your memory as regards a record of interview or confession that Ta-Sarun gave you?
I cannot recall that.
Alors, est-ce que Tassai
Very well. Did Ta-Sarun at any point in time issue instructions to say or to yourself as regards the interrogations methods you had to use in interrogating prisoners who refused to answer questions put to them? or who refused to confess. Did you receive any instructions regarding interrogations, methods, and techniques?
I received instructions on the interrogation techniques. The instructions were to get the prisoner to write his answers, and after we received such documents, then we can use it to question the prisoner further.
D'accord, là c'est la...
Very well. That was a situation in which everything went very well and the prisoners cooperated. But when the prisoners clearly didn't want to tell the truth, were there any instructions issued to the guards to use force by beating the detainees or using electric wires? Did Tasarun issue any instructions in that regard?
Tasarun never issued instructions on what to do with prisoners who refused to confess. I only heard from No, who gave instructions to the security guards that when they had to feed prisoners with rice, the guards should mix with more salt so that the prisoners would become thirsty, and then would beg for water from the guards who stood watch outside. And in a case when a prisoner asked for water, then the guards should tell the prisoner to tell the truth to Angka when Angka questioned him.
In the interrogation room, were there instruments that could be used to torture the detainees who refused to tell the truth?
During the period that I worked at the interrogation room, there was no instrument, namely clamped or electrical wire there.
I would like simply to read out what you said in WRI E3/5512 at answer 8. And the question was put to you about whether or not there were torture instruments at the Okansang security office, and you said there were. There was equipment to apply electric shock. I saw security personnel use them on the ethnic Jarai prisoners that had been captured on the battlefield. There were clubs too, but they were not kept there for that. When they were required, they went to get them. End of quote. So, witness, does this somewhat refresh your memory regarding what you said to the investigators of the OCIJ?
ខ្ញុំនឹកឃើញ
Answer. Concerning the electrical shock, those electrical shocks were used when Jarai was sent into the security center. Security guards, from observation, carried the phones in Nono's regime to shock the prisoners. So they use that kind of phones to execute the electrical shock to the prisoners.
Je voudrais également lire ce qu'a dit.
So I'd like to read out what Tap Chong Se said, who was the head of Okan Singh, in his WRI E3/405 at answer 14. And I quote, sometimes there were acts of torture, but they were not committed in a systematic way on all prisoners. The acts of torture were carried out with the aim of obtaining confessions, and they were carried out on prisoners who were suspected of having hidden information or on those who did not want to tell the truth. These prisoners were beaten up, and they were beaten with a whip. They were electrocuted with electric power. End of quote, free translation. So here Chomsen makes no distinction between the prisoners who were Jarai or not. So what is your reaction in relation to what Chomse said regarding torture that was inflicted in a non-systematic way on the prisoners?
Answer. I have listened to the testimony of Sai in relation to torture. It was the conclusion of Sai in relation to torture inflicted on prisoners.
Well, I will stop here with this issue because I must now start talking about other issues. You said that among the 100 people who died at Okan Singh, most of them had been smashed. So where were these people executed? Were there pre-existing pits in which these people were buried? So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Answer. I can recall that when prisoners were taken to be killed, mostly it happened at night time. The actual perpetrators at the time did the action, Tim, No, and I were sleeping in different rooms. Prisoners were arrested at around 7 or 8 p.m. and at that time I did not see Tim. Usually Tim would be there when a prisoner was taken away to be killed, but on that particular day, Tim was not present. And since it was dark at night time, I do not know where those prisoners were sent to be killed, where the prisoners were sent to be killed.
Juste une précision, quand vous dites que
Just a point of clarification, when you said that Tim was not there each time a prisoner was executed, what do you mean by that? Because I understand that since he was in charge of the security unit, it would be he who would be in charge, or at least who would supervise the executions. So tell me if I somewhat misunderstood here.
ក្នុងការគ្រប់គ្រងផ្នែកសន្តិ
Answer. In relation to the management of prisoners, it was Tim who was in charge of it. And there is a question from you in relation to pits. There were pits used to put the Jarais, people who had been killed. That pit was the result of B-52 bombing. There was an occasion that Jarai, ethnic Jarai, were killed. A few days later, I went to that location where there were jackfruits, and I could feel the stink or bad smells. So I assumed that perhaps the ethnic Jarai had been killed at that location.
Well, in fact, yes. I would like now to turn to one of the last topics in my examination, and it is the Jarai prisoners. Was there one or several groups of Jarai who were taken to the Okanseng Center in 1977 or 1978?
Answer. Regarding the ethnic Jarai who were sent into Okanseng Security Center, they were transported into the security center by a vehicle, CMC, a big vehicle, 2 vehicles in fact. They were sent in at night time. It was so noisy at the time that those ethnic Jarai were sent into the center. There were too many people, and the space at the center could not accommodate all those Jarai people, but after they were in, they were locked inside.
Well, indeed, I would like to clarify things a little bit more. So was there only one single incident when Jarai people arrived in 2 big GMC trucks, or were there several occasions when Jarai were transported massively to Okanseng? So can you tell us if this happened once or several times?
Answer. I may have not remember well how many trips did that happen. I could recall that many ethnic Jarai were sent into the security center by vehicles, and there were 1 or 2 armed soldiers on each truck or vehicle.
do you have an idea, or can you give me an estimate of the number of Jarai people? You told me that there were very many of them who were brought to the Okanseng Security Center in once or in several trips.
Answer: I cannot give you the exact figure of the ethnic Jarai. What I can say is that there were plenty of them, more than 100. Perhaps there were around 105 or 110 of them, but I cannot tell you the exact figure of those Jarai.
And do you remember the year and the season when these Charai people, more than 100 as you said, arrived at Okanseng?
Answer: from my recollection, it was in a rainy season.
Was it at the beginning of your job at Okanseng in 1977, or was it closer to 1978, closer to when the Vietnamese arrived? Can you give us an idea?
Answer: there were clashes at the border from late 1977, and the clashes also took place at Road 19. There were sporadic clashes. At that time, Jarai, ethnic Jarai, were sent into Okanseng Security Center, and I cannot tell you the exact time frame of that time.
Do you remember the reasons for their arrests, or do you remember the circumstances of their arrests? What did you learn regarding these arrests? And could you also tell me if these Jarai people transited through another place before being brought to Okanseng after they had been arrested?
Answer: after those Jarai were questioned, they in fact did not reside in Cambodia. And these people were living in Vietnam. They were not arrested in Vietnam. However, they were arrested in Cambodia.
I would like to ask you if when they were arrested, you were told that they were armed.
Answer: after ethnic Jarai were sent into my center, I never received any information that they had been armed. They delivered ethnic Jarai to us, and some of them were in 30s, some other below 25, and there were elderly in 40s, in late 40s, one or two of them.
Est-ce qu'il y avait des
Were there women or young girls among this group of Charai?
There were not many female Jarai. And as I said, I cannot tell you whether there were 5 or 10 female Jarai. Most of them were male. And as for female, there were around 5 or 6 of them.
I would like to read out to you right now a telegram regarding this incident, or regarding one of these incidents, E3/240, which is dated 15 June 1977, and which was sent by V to the respected brother and copied.
President, please hold on. Co-prosecutor, you have the floor first. Copper.
Thank you, Mr. President. I object to formulation of this question. That is indeed one of the questions that the trial chamber has to answer, whether document E3240 has anything to do with what the witness is testifying to. That is disputed. It is unclear. I remind the chamber of the testimony of one of the prisoners who put the event of him possibly seeing Jarai victims somewhere in March '78. So saying now that this particular telegram has anything to do with the observations of this witness is disputed, and it is unclear and is not supported by the evidence so far.
Mr. President, I put many questions regarding this incident when the Jarai arrived. I put questions about the composition of the group, about the period, and where they came from, etc. So I believe that I am now entitled to confront the witness with one of the elements on the case file to see if we're speaking about the same incident or about another incident. Now, regarding the date, it's only the date of the telegram. This does not mean that this is the date when they entered Okanseng. It's just a report on the fact that they were arrested and not on the fact that they were taken to Okanseng, which might have happened much later. That we don't know, in fact. So may I please read out this telegram and then put questions to the witness regarding its content in order to understand if we're speaking about the same group of Jarai people.
I really object to this way of proceeding, Mr. President, because he is not the author or the recipient of this document, and he is, other than most witnesses who are confronted with S21 documents, someone who could possibly say something about those Jarai. So now leading him to make a connection between that telegram and his evidence is, I believe, unacceptable. So he can be shown the document. However, I believe it should be shown in a very neutral way and not by suggesting that this document has in fact something to do with the evidence that he just gave. That is leading him into evidence that I'm sure the prosecution would like to hear, but it should be done, if at all, very neutrally. And of course I object to him being shown the document in the first place, but you will reject that objection. However, if it's being shown, it should be shown in a very neutral way and not leading the witness into something the prosecution would like to hear.
បាទអង្គជំរះសម្រាប់ថាបដ
President, the chamber decides to overrule the objection put by the defense counsel for Mr. Nunjie Copper. The chamber allowed the question to be put to the witness, and the witness can provide observation on the question lastly put by the International Deputy Co-Prosecutor. International Deputy Co-Prosecutor, please reformulate your question. It was not fully interpreted a while ago, and perhaps the witness may not have listened fully to your question.
Indeed, Mr. President, I was about to explain what this telegram was about and to read an excerpt of it before putting a question to the witness. So I repeat, this is telegram E3/240, dated 15 June 1977, that was sent by a so-named VY, to the respected brother and copied to Uncle Nguyen, Brother Van, Vaughan, and Q. And the French ERN is 00282550. Khmer 00001266. English 00897665. And I quote point 1. At the beginning of the telegram, at 9 a.m. of June 14, this means 1977, Production Unit 801, stationed at 107, while patrolling, arrested 209 Vietnamese soldiers, including 9 females, in the vicinity of O Laak, Laak in English, 4 kilometers south of road number 9. Almost all of them are Charai, who speak Khmer with an ethnic accent. They have already been kept in our custody. Further, they said that they had been in the army for 2 to 10 years, and they were transporting an AK rifle, 3 AR-15 guns, 2 pistols, and 3 US-made grenades. As far as I'm concerned, these are external enemies who are burrowing from within. And later on in this telegram, and the telegram ends, please ask for extra information for Ankar, propose an immediate decision and a definitive decision. I am expecting your favorable answer, end of quote. Part of it was free translation. So witness, you heard the content of this telegram, which describes an event during which 209 soldiers described as Vietnamese were arrested close to O Laak. And it is indicated that most of them were Charai. There were 9 females among them. So do these elements allow you to tell us if the people you saw arrive at O Kan Sang correspond to the people that are described in this telegram?
Answer. I think that the testimony in relation to the capture of 204 Vietnamese, when I compare to the real situation happening at my location, I think the number was overstated. It was not at that number of people that we received at the security center. The center was about 10 meters long and 6 meters wide. Together with the previous prisoner who were soldiers, that center could not accommodate the 204 people that was mentioned a while ago. That was a different account, and I cannot tell you the exact number of people who were arrested at the time.
I only have a few minutes left. The witness, to clarify this, in fact, the group that you saw arrived at Okan Seng, was this group accused of being Vietnamese soldiers or not?
They were not accused of being Vietnamese soldiers. From the information I received from the battlefield, they were considered soldiers, Chilki soldiers, before the period of 1970.
Tout à l'heure, vous avez dit qu'il...
A while ago, you stated that they were not residing in Cambodia, but that they lived in Vietnam. Were those persons of Vietnamese nationality, or they were considered as being Vietnamese by the officials of the division and the center?
Answer. From their tone of language, they may have been ethnic Jarai, but I do not know how to speak Jarai language. But from the tone of language and from their accent, they may have been Jarai. As for the color of their skin, they were not Vietnamese. They were those who resided in the mountainous area as those who were living in Ratanakiri province.
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. President, I'll need an additional 5 minutes today, if you would allow me. Mr. Witness, to be very clear, I wasn't referring to the ethnicity of that group, but to its nationality. Do you understand that difference? What I wanted you to tell me was whether those were persons residing in Vietnam who spoke Jarai and who were Jarai detainees, or there were nationals of another country that is a country other than Vietnam.
Answer. They in fact resided in Vietnam, so they may have held Vietnamese nationality.
tout à l'heure, j'ai fait...
A while ago, I referred you to a meeting you had with Tas Harun and also with Sai regarding that group of Jarai. What did Tas Harun tell you regarding those persons, and what did you have to do with them, and what was their fate?
Answer. after I had met Tasarun or 05 together with Sai, he asked me about the management issue. We were asked about how Organized Security Center manage the ethnic Jarai. And at the time, Sai made a report that the management of large number of ethnic Jarai, and in light of the limited number of security guards, they were not able to control and manage ethnic Jarai or prisoners. And number two, Sai made a report also about the accommodation for the detainees. Sai made 2 points to Tasarun in the meeting.
Il me reste peu de temps. Je voudrais...
I have very little time left. I'll read out to you what you stated in E3/5512 in answer number 11. You referred to that incident and you stated the following. Free translation, the Jarai were indeed arrested and imprisoned at the Okanseng Security Center. Soldiers at the Ao Dayav battlefield captured them and transported them by truck to the Okanseng Security Office, accusing them of being soldiers under Kyoki. There were more than 100 of those Jarai, and there were 5 to 6 females among them. At the time, Tasarun, Ta05, called me and said to meet with him, and he told us that to sort out those Jarai, we had to take certain measures. When we returned to the security office, we told the security personnel to sort out all those Jarai. The term sort out in quotes literally meant that we had to kill and get rid of them, end of quotes. Part of it was free translation. Does this refresh your memory as to what Ta Sarun told you as to what you had to do to the Jarai, that is to say, to execute them?
Answer. I can recall the instruction of Tasarun or Tas05 about ethnic Jarai after the report of Sai. And after hearing the report, he summed up the report and said, please solve it. And it was our understanding that the word resolve it means killed. And I gave my answer to the investigators when they came to interview me, and I did say that after we met Tasarun, Sai invited security guards and me to sit together and solve the issue.
Merci, Monsieur le Témoin.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. I think it is time for us to adjourn. Thank you, Mr. President.
President, thank you. Thank you as well, Mr. Witness. It is now time for the adjournment. The Chamber will resume its hearing tomorrow, Tuesday, 22nd March 2016 at 9 a.m. Tomorrow, the Chamber continues hearing the witness to TCW 900 via video link. Please be informed and please be on time. I am grateful to you, Mr. Witness, to TCW 900. The hearing of your testimony as a witness has not come to an end yet. You are therefore invited to come and testify once again tomorrow at 9 a.m. Thank you, Mr. Momratir, the duty counsel. You are also accused. You are invited to come and sit close to the witness tomorrow as well. Do you understand? Do you hear me well, Mr. Witness? Tomorrow we will start again at 9 a.m. Witness, yes, I understand it, Mr. President. President, you may now take a rest. Security personnel are instructed Nuon Chien Kiew Sampon back to the ECCC's detention facility and have them returned into the hearing tomorrow before 9 a.m. The court is now adjourned.